Do you have leads, but you're having trouble converting? Or maybe you have so many leads, you don't even know where to start with who to try to convert. Well, don't worry, you're not alone, but there is a better way. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you here in this video. This is a recording of a training I did for real estate agents on taking a cold audience through Facebook ads and creating a funnel to work them down into warm leads that you know that's who you need to focus on. And the best part is we can even set it up to where they're reaching out to you. If you like this information and you find it helpful, then definitely subscribe. We put new content out every week. So hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you know when we release more content. Now let's jump over into the training and start showing you how to create some of those warm leads out of cold audiences. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're taking cold audiences and I want to turn them into appointments, and we're going to use funnels. So I'll get into a little more detail on what funnels is and how to do that. They do work, and this will hopefully give you some do-it-yourself things that work as well. So just the targeting of it. So my name is Ben Larson. I am a team leader. I'm an agent with Real. I'm also a Tom Ferry coach and one of our marketing specialists, specifically digital marketing, and even more specifically, the paid side of digital marketing. I do a lot of trainings and seminars and special sessions on digital marketing, YouTube ads, Google ads, and Meta. Maybe not obviously, but Meta is Facebook and Instagram, for those of you that may not know. I've been doing this for a long time, over 10 years, so I still call them Facebook ads, even though they're Meta ads. So if I say Facebook ads, just understand I'm talking about Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. Because when you run an ad through Ads Manager, it defaults to putting the ads on Facebook and Instagram. You can change where it goes if you want, but it just defaults that way. So you're going to talk about 3 strategies on targeting, really just kind of using your content to target, some remarketing, and then custom audiences. And I'll go into a little more detail on what all that means. Goal is get better leads so we have better follow-up. So I'd love to connect with all of you. These are my handles. If you just want to scan that QR code, that's how you can follow me on Instagram, just to make it easy. Just scan that code. You can check out the others as well, or take a photo of the screen for later. All right. So real problem. So lead volume, and Mike, maybe you ran into this. You said you've been doing it yourself and you haven't benefited from it. Maybe you're getting the lead volume, but you're not seeing the conversions. And that's, I say maybe because that's a very common issue. A lot of people are getting leads, and a lot of them even get to the point where they're getting a really good cost per lead, but they're not converting. The problem is, I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule, and possibly even 90-10 in a lot of cases, but 80% of your results is coming from 20% of what you're doing. So 20% of your leads are going to deliver those results. So how do we find that 20%? And that helps with targeting, that helps with remarketing, getting a bigger group, and then that's where the funnel comes in. We get a bunch of people into the top of it, and we try to funnel them down where, hopefully that 20% is coming out the bottom, or at least maybe 30 to 40% is coming out of the bottom, and that 20% is in there. So it's less follow-up with higher quality. So most agents are overwhelmed. Like I mentioned, they get a lot of low quality leads, waste their time, erodes their confidence. A lot of people say, Facebook leads are junk. They don't turn into anything. And that's because a lot of times, when you're chasing cold leads, you're not following up with the right ones, and the right ones need more time. And there's only so much time. And if you're following up with everybody, it's hard to do a real thorough job with the right ones. So quick stats, 72% of leads aren't followed up with after 48 hours. That's not just Facebook leads, that's all leads, unfortunately, for realtors. Facebook ads is the #1 ROI digital channel for real estate when it's used right. And I say that because, there's TikTok and Instagram. Those are 2 other big ones. YouTube is different. But Facebook is where really the demographics for most of our clients are going to be. It's been shifting over the years, but it's still, any big marketing companies or agencies will still tell you that. Cost per lead is rising, But if you're targeting correctly, your cost per closing drops. So I've got a client that's been generating lots and lots of Facebook leads, and I asked them if they're actually tracking their cost per closing, because they're so focused on getting the best cost per lead, but that's not always the best way to go. And so right now they're calculating their cost per closing, and you know, I would bet you some of the ones that cost them higher leads because they're more targeted and they're more qualified are going to have a lower cost per closing. Um, so the first strategy I want to talk about is called dog whistle targeting. And this is, you guys are probably aware of a dog whistle. When you blow it, only the dogs hear it. It's really kind of the same thing with your content. So you're putting content out to a broad audience, but you're hooking the right people with the right message. So you can you can try to do some general targeting. Geographically, Facebook limits you to a 15-mile radius, so you can't do too much, but maybe in your area that works. I'm in Los Angeles. It's not ideal. You can cover, many different markets in that radius. So, but it's still, it's a way. You got to do what you got to do. And Facebook, restricts you to only being able to do that. And I've got some other little tricks I'll share with you to get around that. But say you do that. So you put a big ad out, but the messaging, you talk about, people in, my area. So say Redondo Beach. If I say, Redondo Beach homeowners, and I'm targeting a big area, most of those people that aren't Redondo Beach homeowners are probably not going to stop and pay attention. Some will just because they're curious, but it's more likely that the Redondo Beach homeowners would. And so that's a way for me to target that group. You can say, are you a first-time home buyer, or whatever it may be, or you're looking for investment property in Los Angeles, those types of things to really kind of catch their ear. And that's the dog whistle that only they hear it. But first of all, you want to think about, who is your avatar? We don't want to, if you're for everybody, you're for no one. That's a common saying. So who's your avatar, and who do you want to be working with? You should figure that out, just for your business in general. So you can be somewhat specialized, and because your messaging is going to attract the type of people that you're working with. And so you want to attract people that are, if you like first-time buyers, like I said, or you like investors or whatever it is. If you're putting out all of that content, then people you're not going to be a specialist. They're not going to say, oh, I should go work with that person. So first of all, figure out, who is that avatar? What do they do? What are they interested in? And what are their biggest challenges? And that's where you create the content. What are their questions? What are their challenges? When you're putting that out, then they connect with that. And a good place to figure that out is, what are they looking for? Answer the Public is it's an online website, and you can go in, and there's a free version, but if you pay for it, you can get more detailed. I don't use it as much anymore. Tom Ferry used to be really big on it. He might still be. I think there's other better options out there. The nice thing about Answer the Public, though, is you can say what platform you're curious about, and you can do that on ChatGPT too, just by asking. But there's tabs. You can say on Answer the Public, you can click on the YouTube tab and say, buying a home, and it'll tell you, here are all the questions people are asking about buying a home, ranked by the most popular questions. So that's good information. ChatGPT is good. And the other one I've been starting to use is Perplexity. Little different type of platform than large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and some of those. So it's a good one to go use and see. It'll aggregate, kind of what people are asking. So you can be very specific and say, what are first-time buyers in the Los Angeles area asking? What are the top 10 issues? And then you create the content that attracts them. And then you're building an audience from that. So this is the targeting part of it. How do we do that? We're targeting them. We're getting, you're putting ads out about first-time buyers in Los Angeles. You're doing a 15-mile radius around it. So now you're going to get people that, you can remarket. You can send other ads to. So the big thing is, you don't need a huge budget. You just need better bait. So if you've got the right bait, if you've got the right message that people are going to connect with, now we can capture them, and we got them in our net, and then we can hit them with other things. So that's where remarketing comes into play. So that's there's remarketing. So it's for those of you who don't know, it's where you click on something, And then you go, over to ESPN and you're looking at scores and you see an ad for that same thing you just clicked on. So that's remarketing. Basically, it's following you around the internet. Google and Meta basically own all those little 80 to 90% of all those little billboards all over the internet. And so this is a way to remarket to those people. And there's different ways of doing it. If they can click on your ad, if they like it, if they interact with the ad itself. What I like the best way is running a video and using a video views remarketing campaign, because they don't have to even interact with your ad. All they have to do is watch at least 3 seconds and you can hit them. You can also target people that have watched 50% or 75% or the whole ad, the whole video. Obviously, the more they've watched, the higher intent they're going to be. But if you want someone that just had some intent, they paused and watched for 3 seconds, it's a good starting point. And then you can run different ads to those people. So then what do you do? So when you have those that, you cast that wide net, now you got people in your net that, stop for a second, like, oh yeah, I'm a first time buyer in LA. So let's see what this video is all about. 3 seconds in, 5 seconds in, they get distracted, or they might think this isn't for me and they move on. But or they get busy and they had to turn it off. Well, now you can hit them with more ads to bring them back. So I usually run for the funnel. I would do 2 more ads targeting that group. And so what we're always trying to do with marketing is you want people to trust you. That's how they're going to give you their information. That's how they're going to reach out to you once they start to trust you. So how can you build that? People will give their information just cold if it's the right thing. But a lot of them might not be serious. So how do you get people that have intent to give their information and trust you? So I always say first you need to build the familiarity. They need to be familiar with you, get to know you, and then they start to trust you. So they see you enough, they see the content they're seeing builds that trust, builds rapport. And so 2 ads to run to help do that. One is credibility, and that could be a testimonial ad is a great thing to run. It could just be a quote card. It could be a client of yours that did a video testimonial, something where they see this, and they tie it together. Oh yeah, I remember seeing Mike's initial video, and this is a client testimonial about him. Obviously, he's working with these people are happy with him. That's good to know. And then you create another ad that hits them, that creates authority. And this could be something. You could be doing a video on a market update. You could just be giving a market update with some stats. You could be doing, it's a photo or, a snippet of you doing a webinar or a seminar or an educational piece where you're talking, talking head thing where you're explaining something. When people see someone giving a presentation, it creates authority, and like, oh, Mike, I saw Mike's testimonial. I saw his first video. Now he does webinars for people, seller webinars, or, first time buyer webinars or seminars. He must really know what he's doing. And so these are the examples I gave. So those are the types of ads I would run next. And the big thing on this, like I say here, no call to action in these next 2. All you're trying to do is provide value. You're trying to build familiarity. You're trying to build trust. So you can lose some of that trust if you ask for the call to action too soon, if you ask for something. All right. So the next thing is custom audiences. So custom audience there's different ways of doing it. The video views we just talked about, technically that's a custom audience. What I like for a custom audience, and this is when I said I was going to give you a little trick about how not to have to use the 15-mile radius to target people. So say you have a farm, and obviously your farm is probably not a 15-mile radius because that's a huge area. But so you'd have to run that ad way outside your farm, hit your farm too, but it just doesn't make sense. It's just not relevant. So a custom audience list, there's, like I said, different types of custom audiences you can target, but I like the list version, especially, and this can apply for a farm for sure. I use it for a sphere, your whole database of leads. But let's use a farm, for example. You pull all the names, you probably have the names and phone numbers or names and email or addresses. So if you're mailing to a farm with direct mail, then you have that. There are other programs, either you can get through your title company, or there are other programs where you can go out and upload that list of names and addresses, and it will pull as many phone numbers and emails as it can find on it. Because that's what you're going to need to put into Facebook, into Meta, is a list of the names, an email, and or phone number. Ideally, you have both, and if you have multiple emails or multiple phone numbers, put them all in, because you need to give Meta the best chance of finding these people in their system. And then you basically you can run ads for everybody that it finds and connects with. You can run ads. You can basically determine what you want to put in front of those people. That's as good a targeting as it gets. So again, what I would, I've mentioned it before, I would target them with value add content, and then you mix in what are called lead magnets and calls to action. So that's where the remarketing comes into play. Lead magnets can be, the custom audiences. It all kind of plays into it. You get the one first big ad, and then that's where you kind of narrow it down with your dog whistle into people that have some interest, and then you're hitting them with the second two ads, or you're starting with a custom audience of people you think may already be interested. You could hit those with just the second two ads, or if it's a really big group, then you do hit them with the first ad still. But that's your funnel. When you're getting them, whether it's already a targeted group or you're taking a really big cold audience and you want to narrow them down into a targeted group, then you run the two ads to build some familiarity, build some trust, and then once you have that, now we ask them for their information. So now those are lead magnets. So I'll share my screen a little bit about Ads Manager and where to find some of those custom audiences. But lead magnets, those are basically ways. How do we get their information? How do we get a name, a phone number, an email, phone number or an email or both? But their address. How do we get that? There's a number of ways of doing it. You can give them a guide. You can give them a seller's guide or a staging guide or a first-time buyer's guide. They can subscribe to a webinar that you're doing. You can do just drive them to a home value landing page where they can find out what their home is worth. So any type of landing page. Drive them to somewhere to search for homes. So once they kind of trust you a little bit, they're going to be more likely to actually engage with the lead magnets, calls to action, things like that. Okay, now you have an understanding of the 3 strategies. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to jump into a screen recording, and I'm actually going to show you exactly how to do some of these things. But due to the length of it, we had to cut it out into a part 2. So that's showing on your screen right now. Go ahead and hop over there and check that one out. And thanks for joining today.